How's it going, everybody? Steven Stairs here. Thought I'd talk to you today. By the way, it's been a while since I made a video, I know. 2013 has been very busy. A lot of projects going on. There's a lot I can talk about. I'll talk about that after. The main reason I'm making this video today is there's a very big problem facing a number of Canadians right now regarding the proposed changes to the medical marijuana access program through Health Canada. A brief overview of the changes is available in the low bar under the video, and I'll give you a quick synopsis now. Basically, there's a proposed changes guidelines set out. It's about a 400-page document, completely arbitrary nonsense, dealing with everything from the commercialization of marijuana supply through small business, to the elimination of personal production and designated grower licenses, to the proposed change that doctors would become dispensaries along with the small business side of it, and the idea that somehow there would be funding involved from the provincial healthcare systems. So basically, that's a quick synopsis of the proposed changes. Patients all around are, for the majority part, are pretty upset. There are a few that enjoy the proposed changes, and, you know, that to each their own. But for the majority's sake, I would say that there is a large number of patients who are completely, I would say, left out to dry. No weed, pun intended. By the government, and they feel quite betrayed. I've made a video in the past just doing a quick little rant about some of the proposed changes. This is something I want to touch on today, definitely to give you a quick little overview and brief kind of explanation as to some of how the proposed changes would directly affect not only myself as a patient, but other patients across the country. So one of those problems is with the proposed changes of eliminating personal production licenses, designated growers, and etc. is your costs involved. The cost of growing marijuana, from growing it, including your electricity bills, your nutrients, your water consumption, your space rent, maybe, whatever it might be, utility costs, are all, exorbitantly lower. We're talking fractional to the cost of buying marijuana from a local business, i.e. dispensary or compassion club, or from the government, even though they'll no longer be doing that subsequently. So the cost value in itself, just to transition from growing marijuana to producing marijuana, growing marijuana to purchasing marijuana, is astronomical. There are no safety nets or insurance plans in place to negate the overbearing costs on patients. Lowered fixed incomes. I mean, these are people who need every dollar that they have, not just for medication, but for rent and food and clothing. I mean, these are basic essential needs that everybody has in this country. And medication, access to medication is one of them. So there are no programs in place to, circumvent the hardship that will be implied on patients due to the changeover from growing to purchasing. And that's something that wasn't even addressed by Health Canada. Second of all, the abuse of MMAR, it doesn't constitute the right and the removal of our right to grow our own medication. The abuse of a program could be circumvented by the initial institution and implementation of, adherence guidelines, inspections, yada yada, that Health Canada would have been and should have been obliged to do in the first place, and not just create a system and let it go, unchecked for 12 years. You know, that's absurd. Uh, so a lot of this lies back on the government regarding the abuse of it. So to hold patients accountable for the abuses that were, that abuses that were occurred due to Health Canada not, for lack of a better word, minding the ship. That patients should not fit the bill for this. And I don't know where the government gets off thinking that we're gonna just take it on the chin and no problem, it's our fault. Not gonna happen. Uh, Third thing is that with the implementation of small business into the process of growing, purchasing, and supplying marijuana, there's oversight that somehow is manifested into a coherent reality that will take place, and that somehow small businesses, these dispensaries, would somehow be like, exempt from the black market temptations that exist by growing your own marijuana at home, which is a substantiated reason as to why we can't do it anymore. Oh, growing your own marijuana is diverting it to the black market, quote unquote, as Louisiana Aguiac would have said. That's nonsense to think that small business. I mean, small businesses in the states, i.e., dispensaries and commercial clubs, have already been subjected to, diversions of product to the black market for other consumptions, recreational, whatever it might be. Now, the pills are already taken from a doctor or a pharmacy, and they're prescribed to people, and then they're sold for other money and drugs and all that kind of stuff. So the idea that somehow small business, corporate entitizing, capitalizing this system of medical marijuana will somehow subvert them from abuses and misdeeds by the misappropriation of medication is it's absurd. It's ludicrous to think that just because the government says, "Oh, this will stop it," that it will. I mean, then why hasn't the government stopped everything else that's wrong with the planet? Like, it's nonsense to think that. So the abuses and the diversions of it to the black market are something that will always happen because you have an illegal substance. It's just like prohibition was in the 20s. There's, you can't. I mean, that's why there's an underground market for the sex trade industry, because we haven't legalized prostitution yet. If prostitution had a place to go and it was regulated and all that kind of stuff, then we wouldn't have people selling it on the street, because they would be like, "Whoa, why would you do that when you get it here?" They would be reputable. You're not going to buy booze out of the back seat of some guy's truck. No, you're going to go to the LC and buy some moonshine or something like that, or whatever it might be, wine, brew, whatever. But the idea that somehow the diversion of it is another reason to penalize patients, that's another ludicrous idea. It's a separate issue altogether. The regulation of marijuana is totally separate from the access point from medication side. The patient side is, why are legal law-abiding patients being held accountable for people breaking the law? Again, no answer from Health Canada. I don't even think they would address that issue, because they would see it as, well, we won't legalize, so that's that, and that's just absurd. I don't know how, yeah. The government claims that, the provinces would have to, somehow, well, I mean, they don't claim to. I mean, they're implying that somehow the provincial healthcare systems will somehow be able to accommodate the overwhelming burden of covering a medication, because if there's no way a patient, an out-of-pocket disabled person, and I say disabled person lightly as a term, because, I mean, generally I would assume that if we have medical marijuana, we're somewhat disabled, so you can use that however you want to describe yourself, but I consider myself disabled, so that's how I go. There's an idea that you would expect patients to somehow have the ability to, already be cursed with a lower earning income and a lack of job prospects nationally, like through every sector in every field. It's a fact that disabled people have a harder time finding work and maintaining gainful financial employment. So to think that somehow they have the ability to, you know, oh yeah, sure, I can go from paying, you know, $1,000 a year for my medication to, in my case, I mean, the majority of people out there, I assume, would have somewhat of a 2 gram to a 10 gram a day limit. I don't know, maybe 15 grams. I have a 10 gram a day limit, which is, you know, 300 grams a month, right? 12 months in a year, right? That's 3,600 grams in a year. At street prices, $10 a gram, man. You know, you're looking at 30 grand plus a year for my medication. Is the provincial healthcare system going to cover that? Okay, sure, let them do it. But where's the money going to come from? You know, if you tax marijuana recreationally, for just everybody that wants to do it, that would put enough money into the coffers in the healthcare system to pay to cover people who need it medically. Because there is a difference, and there always will be. Don't deny it. So if we just establish this separation of the two, maybe we could get away from some of the illegalities being somehow implemented into the patient orientation life. Like, it's absurd. So maybe, I mean, I don't know where the government thinks the provincial healthcare is going to get the money from, but that's one way that you could get it. Tax it. Legalize it, tax it. We're not talking like a cigarette or an alcohol tax, or like even a gasoline tax, right? Marijuana is good for you. You can't tax it. Okay? All you can do is put GST and PSD in it in your local area, provincial territory, whatever it might be, right? Like, that's what you got to do. So why run from it? Let's just do it already. You know, there's no money in the provincial healthcare systems already. They're overburdened as it is. So why would we subject them to such more, you know, demeaning hardships? I mean, the nurses already work their ass off. Doctors are already strapped and full of patients. I mean, it's hard for immigrants and local new families to, you know, find, you know, a local GP or a specialist for their current condition. I mean, the healthcare system in this country is already falling apart at its seams, and we're hitting it with a sledgehammer with this legislation nonsense. It's absolutely absurd. The government needs to check onto that, too. I mean, you need to get on the ball, government. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking. Have you talked to the provinces? Probably not, because the Harper government doesn't like to talk to the provinces. As far as he's concerned, he runs a dictatorship. Okay, so Canadian American passion clubs, okay, they're often selling marijuana at the same price as well. So how are we going to somehow have patients, or sorry, same street price, that's what I meant to say. How are we going to somehow have patients being able to pay street prices when the government sells it at $5 a gram? It's crappy weed, but granted, I think a dispensary should be selling weed at $5 a gram or less. I mean, if you open up the marketplace with a small business, as long as it's ethical, it's not organized crime, or people who just want to rip off patients getting involved in the small business side of growing marijuana and supplying it to patients, as long as it's not those people, then maybe there's an actual legitimate chance that we could drive up business, you know, supply and demand, right? If everybody has the opportunity to produce it and do all this stuff and sell it, you know, there'll be more competition, more marketplace. Maybe we could drop it down to $2 a gram. Would you love to buy, like, a quarter for, like, $10? But like that would be the deal. Instead of it being $14, you know, $2 a gram, straight up 7, it would be $10. You get it a deal. You know, you get 3 quarters for 25 or something like that. You know, like, can you imagine that? Patients would have more money to put to life expenses such as family, you know, transportation, schooling, housing, food, all that kind of stuff. So there needs to be a price change as well. Even Canadian dispensaries are still running this $5, $10 a gram stuff. I mean, I've seen hash being sold at $50 a gram on some of these sites. Are you crazy? I mean, I get it, but really? There's no backbone or like, you know, morals in some of you people, where it's just like, hey, these people are actually sick. Maybe I shouldn't just be, you know, being able to go to Mexico for 3 weeks every year, just off their dime. Maybe I should just be, you know, living a normal life, charging medical prices, you know, giving subsidies and stuff like that. You know, disabled people have lower income earning ratio, right? You know, less money they could spend. So I think there needs to be a serious look at that nationwide, not only in this country but all over the place. We need to drop the price of marijuana. It needs to stop being such an elusive target for or sorry, a lucrative target for organized crime and seedy activities like that. We got to stop making it a money maker and start making it a health maker. Um, and basically, the last part I want to touch on really is the federal government also says that growing your own marijuana is no longer allowed, or will no longer be allowed, due to the fact that it's a fire hazard. I think the stats that they showed up, houses with home grow-ups are 1 in 24 times more likely to, 24 more times likely to have a house fire than houses that don't. First off, part A, there's a whole home horticulture industry where people grow their own vegetables at home. I don't see any sort of hardcore regulations at that. People have their own grow-ups in their basement where they grow vegetables all year round. No one's kicking down their doors when their house gets on fire, okay? So maybe if there were more regulations, that wouldn't happen, right? Not necessarily for the horticulture people, but for marijuana people. Maybe if Health Canada, and this is where Part B comes in, if Health Canada did their part originally and had standards set up like they're implying for commercial growers now, that they could apply for home growers. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if you're setting up standards that apply to a commercial grower, you need to have, fireproof walls and certain ventilation and, these, alarm systems and, whether it be a sprinkler system or fire prevention or whatever it might be, fire extinguisher every 10 feet, whatever the odd number of numerical, philosophical bullshit regulation they want to put out to us that we would have to adhere to, that would be fine. Because you could apply it to both levels, the home producer and the commercial producer. But obviously the commercial producer would be on so much of a larger scale. But the idea that somehow it's safe for a commercial grower to do it, but a home grower can't do it, I mean, you can brew beer at home. You can roll cigarettes at home. You can do everything at home. You can build model fucking rockets at home. You can buy literally explosives that shoot miles into the atmosphere and build that shit at home, but growing your own weed with a light. And you can buy LED lights, by the way, nowadays that they're not even a fire hazard, really. What's the LED going to do? Short out and short circuit? Well, then I guess we can't have lamps all over the house then. We can't have any lamps in the house because they might short circuit as well, Can't have any reading by nightlight. We all got to go back to candles, although that's a fucking fire hazard to begin with. So there's a lot of absurd kind of rhetoric nonsense that goes back in a circle regarding this stuff. So I really think that we need to be able to have a personal grow conditions to adhere by, and Health Canada, again, would have to do their fucking job and follow through on inspection guidelines. CFIA can't fucking keep enough food inspectors in to keep E. coli out of the mainstream marketplace. Maybe Health Canada should look at their inspector ratios and be like, maybe if we inspected more people, A, we wouldn't have so many criminals abusing the system, and B, maybe there wouldn't be so many fucking fires. I really think that this government needs to somehow go back to, elementary school, and someone can show them, those, little blocks where it's 2 + 2 is 4... 2 + 2 is 4. And it's I think we've really, the government, Harper and his nonsensical little minions, his trio of fun he's got going there, I really think they've just lost it. They're out to lunch as to how people think and react anymore. And to have such simple, ideas come to light as inspect what you've put in place to regulate. Regulations are only as good as the people that regulate them, right? So, or the rules that regulate them and how they're regulated to begin with. So, to think that somehow you can just change the rules, well, you gotta put rules in place that you're regulating to begin with. How are you gonna regulate these ones? I haven't heard anything different. And what would be a really good idea to save yourself a lot of litigation, Health Canada, is to grandfather people's rights to grow at home who already have that right. Because I gotta tell you, you're gonna get just beaten up in the court system. People are gonna be growing weed all over the place, and you're gonna turn the socio perspective on it to no longer being this outcasted thing. It's gonna be the new thing to do because the government says it's illegal and not allowed, but everybody thinks it should be. So you're going to have everybody growing. You're going to have mom and pops growing weed to make themselves better. You're going to have grandmas. You're going to have grandpas. You're going to have college students. You're going to have everybody, okay? So do you want to really... You know what? I like that anyway, so do it. Go ahead. Keep doing what you're doing, Health Canada. Fuck yourself over, either way. And that's my rant. You know, I could rant all day, but sometimes I'd just rather do that. So, quickly, 2013's rolled around. Campaigning for MP, Member of Parliament position against Joy Smith, Conservative MP in the Kildare and St. Paul riding has now commenced. I am going to be soliciting donations and volunteer support through a website that will be up and running right away, actually. So look for that. You know, anybody that wants to help out with, you know, holding up signs and knocking on doors, I would really appreciate it. You'd be doing the country a favor by hopefully bringing legislation regarding legalization to the mainstream. And I don't mean like Justin Trudeau, Liberal Party, decrim mainstream nonsense. Like, I mean real mainstream legalization, making this country a progressive world leader in marijuana, like cannabis consumption. So that's something. Seed Bank is going along good. Other than that, we got the Fight the MMPR changes coming up, actually, regarding these proposed changes. The protest rally is 21st of February. Contact your local organizer or go to the Fight the MMPR Winnipeg Facebook page if you're in Winnipeg here, and you can get in contact with me. Or if you're somewhere else in the country, check out the nationwide page, the Just Fight the MMPR. It's a Facebook group page, and you can check out all the local details there. Ted and Owen Smith, they got this stuff going down lockdown. It's a good time. So we're encouraging people to go to their local MP office and protest on the 21st, National Day of Protest. So, you know, look for that. Come out, support if you can. Got some not so good news today, actually. Everybody probably heard by now, but just in case, the Murnaugh decision came down, and the Ontario Court of Appeals has decided to uphold the laws dictated by the government. So Murnaugh is now susceptible possibly to a retrial. So that's a bit of a downer. So, you know, Matt, you know, my heart goes out to you, bro. You know, keep fighting. We keep fighting for you, bro. We got it down, don't worry. Things will work out. So, you know, everybody help support Matt, help support this. You know, Mark's in jail, right? Gotta support him. Just support movements all over this country. Support the good ones, though. Don't support these unethical weirdos, okay? We don't want any help from those people. There's always a few in a bunch that makes the rest of us look bad. I've been called that I was that person, but frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I'm starting to look like a whole lot of the other apples in this bunch, and well, maybe a few of you were rotten. But otherwise, I love the rest of you. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. A little synopsis. Peace, puff, pass, and I'll see y'all on the 21st of February. Peace.